Doug Flutie's Maximum Football 19 just released on Friday. This game has been heavily marketed as a new college football game. While the game lacks an NCAA license, the generic teams are very clearly based on real schools. There is a Tuscaloosa team with the same uniform and colors as Alabama, ranked number 1 in the game, along with an Athens team that obviously resembled Georgia, and an Upper Florida team that obviously resembles Florida State. These teams can all be changed, and the customization options are what sets this game apart. The game includes a dynasty mode with 130 schools, a play now and season mode with generic professional teams that can also be customized, and gameplay that has improved since last year's version of the game. Is it worth $30? That depends on what you are buying the game for. The game is developed by Canuck Play, a company that includes one developer, one graphic designer, and one marketing social media guy, if I'm not mistaken. They have had some help on this game with interns who donated their time. For example, one intern created a new stadium for this game. The main developer, Dave Winter, used to work at EA as a developer on older Madden games, and has created previous versions of Maximum Football, from the 2006 PC game simply called Maximum Football to the 2017 Canadian football game. Last year they released Maximum Football 18 on PS4 and Xbox One, however the game was very limited. The game allowed you to switch between pro, college, and Canadian rule sets and fields, but there was only a single season mode and very little to do besides just play games. Gameplay was rough but promising, with a physics engine that allowed for organic tackles instead of having a set number of predetermined animations like Madden. Despite this, however, the game felt unpolished and messy, as you would expect from such a small team with a small budget. That takes us to this year. Maximum Football 19, with its small development team and an honest lack of resources, has created an all-new Dynasty mode from scratch, along with new animations, player models, and gameplay improvements. Obviously, for such a small team, this is a big deal and a huge, impressive step forward. But the game does cost $30. The truth is, the average person won't care that they have a small team of 3 working on this game. They will only care if the game is good and worth their money. For that reason, I'm going to be very honest and critical in this review, as I don't want to overhype a game that may disappoint a lot of people. I also want to give the Canuck Play team some constructive criticism to work on. It wouldn't be fair for me to heavily criticize Madden and then tell you guys an indie football game is better simply because it isn't Madden, so I'm going to be honest. First and foremost, the Dynasty mode is awesome. Even for its first year, it's a very rich and challenging mode. Stat tracking is very well done, as it tracks stats over every single year of the Dynasty mode, which goes up to 50 years, and it even has a team column, something that Madden hasn't had in their franchise mode stat tracking since Madden 12, a big issue for me. Numbers are decently accurate, which is nice to see. Pitching to recruits is challenging and varied. Every prospect has an entertaining bio that gives them character, such as wanting to be a TV broadcaster when they retire, or sleeps with a nightlight. Pitching to players is excellent, as you have many different options as to how you want to approach your prospect. If you are a low prestige school, it's going to take a long time to be able to recruit top prospects, as they will just hang up on you. You'll need years of slowly building up with marginally talented players in order to raise your school's pedigree. You can jump into any game, which is nice, and the newsfeed on the main menu is a nice touch. It's a very impressive Dynasty mode regardless of how many developers the team has. I can only imagine what it will look like in the coming years. It isn't without its faults, however. Loading times are very, very long. In order to move on to the next week after playing your game, you have to simulate the rest of the 60 plus games that week, which takes an average of 2.5 minutes each week, at least on my PS4 Pro. Every time you do anything, you get this annoying syncing Dynasty data pop-up which saves the game, but it takes around 10 seconds before it goes away, and it locks up the screen. Even if you didn't do anything that required saving the game, such as viewing prospects or simply looking at your team's stats, it will always pop up when you go back to the Dynasty menu. Moving through the menus is just slow and annoying. Player names are also really weird. The name generating system needs some more normal names in my opinion, because I can't pronounce almost every player on my team. Last names like Kursop and Olerud and Bichu are way too common. Would be nice to see players named John Smith or Jamal Jackson. Perhaps they do this to 100% guarantee that they won't accidentally generate a name that is the same as a real NCAA player? Who knows? And finally, the depth charts and rosters are very confusing, as they seem to have Canadian terminology mixed into the American college mode. Every team in the Dynasty mode is customizable. There is no way to share files or anything, so you have to do all the customization yourself, which is understandable as the developers want to maintain a good relationship with the NCAA. You can only edit teams within one dynasty mode, however. Each dynasty mode you start is reset with generic teams. There is also currently a glitch when editing multiple teams where you can only edit one at a time before backing out, or else the game crashes. This will be fixed according to the team's Twitter account, however. Customization is very in-depth. There are numerous stock logos to choose from that are fantastic, as well as a logo editor. The stock logos can't be changed in terms of color, but there are plenty to choose from. Changing jersey colors is kind of confusing, however. Maybe I'm doing it wrong, but it only seems to let me change red, green, and blue levels rather than selecting colors from a color picker. Despite that, it does give you the freedom to replicate any team you could imagine, which is awesome. I love being able to create my own team. Unfortunately, you cannot select college teams when playing a game through Play Now. However, you can customize the Play Now teams from the main menu separately. Gameplay is, well, not as impressive as the Dynasty mode. The gameplay trailer looked decent to me, but it's clear that the trailer was showing good-looking plays and none of the bad-looking plays, which makes sense. Because the game relies on a physics-based tackling system, you won't get those annoying predetermined animations you'd see in Madden. However, it can look really rough. Players' legs can turn inside out and flip around, tackles can result in players falling in directions that just don't make sense, and it looks very ugly and messy a lot of the time. However, at other times, the gameplay can look very well done. Big hits, especially on sacks or tackles for a loss, look great most of the time. The new hurdling option can look pretty when used properly. Unfortunately, however, to the average eyes, the game doesn't look very polished. Sometimes receivers ignore their routes completely to run in circles, and on normal difficulty the defense almost feels powerless. Only on the hardest difficulty will the defense actually make plays on the ball. This is something I believe they are tuning in an update, however. Defensive line interactions are improved, as instead of running in place 100% of the time in front of an offensive lineman, now about half the time they will actually engage with the lineman, sometimes pancaking them beautifully and then sacking the quarterback. Roughing the passer penalties are called way too often, however, on fair referee difficulty, which by the way is a great feature, as you can change how strict the referees are. I love that. All in all, gameplay is a smaller improvement over Maximum Football 18 than I expected. It has improved, but it's going to be disappointing for people expecting too much. Don't get me wrong, it is playable and it has its moments, and I would say it is overall fun. However, it just doesn't feel polished. It's very messy and hit or miss. Controls are not the same as Madden at all, but after a few plays you'll get the hang of them. Playbooks are very deep, surprisingly, with a ton of plays and formations to choose from. However, most of the plays seem to be Canadian style, and defensive plays are almost impossible to understand from looking at the play art. Graphically, the player models and grass look decent, and the lighting looks good. The stadium, sidelines, and fans look pretty bad, however. Maximum Football 19 is $30. Unlike buying a game from a AAA company, you can guarantee that buying this game will help improve it, as every dollar this team makes from the game is reinvested into it. This is unlike games like Madden, where they pull in hundreds of millions in revenue, yet claim they lack the resources to add some of the features you can find in Maximum Football, such as team customization options and in-depth stat tracking. In fact, you'll be more likely to help improve games like Madden by not purchasing them, as a drop in revenue is probably the only thing that will make EA want to improve their game. With Maximum Football, you know that you are contributing to creating a better game. The more money they make, the more they can do. With the money to hire an actual development team, I can only imagine how good this game could be, as I do trust Dave's vision and where his priorities are. He simply loves football and wants to make a great football game. However, the game still costs $30. If you're expecting NCAA 14 Part 2, you are setting yourself up for disappointment. And just because the game has a small team doesn't mean their game is worth $30. That's up for you to decide. Because at the end of the day, despite how many developers a game has, a game is still a game with a price tag. This game is not a Madden killer. Madden is a much better game, as it should be. Thinking otherwise is going to make you disappointed. Don't get me wrong, however, there is a lot of fun to be found in this game. The Dynasty mode is fantastic and deep, team customization is awesome, and the gameplay, while flawed, has its moments and is overall a fun experience. Are you going to be purchasing this game? Let me know in the comments below, and thanks for watching.